Oh, Cremona's the guy who's like morning and night coffee guy.
I do drink all day.
Oh, really?
He drinks all day and parties all night.
Yeah, you know it.
All right, so we should be live. What is that tapping? Who's tapping? Stop the tapping.
Deal with it. It's the drum roll for the show start.
Suck it
A
up.
little tap, tap, tap.
Wood Talk is live. This again?
This stupid thing. I did
I was on vacation.
I watched I was like, did you see the new video tab in Facebook? It's like a whole new thing that they're pushing with like,
Hell no.
there's a lot of original content there, and there's like stuff that's ported over from other places. But there was a really good episode of Norm Macdonald's live show that he does, and he had Seinfeld on for like an hour, and there was some really painfully awkward, like two really good comedian guys looking at each other and just like really funny moments. So if you get a chance, check it out. It was hilarious. I watched it, man. I watched it. Oh, Matt's doing all kinds of shit, he says.
Fuck is what's
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, no F-bombs. We're live, dude.
Oh yeah.
Ow.
Listen to this guy. What's he
We
think
all
this
get
is?
one, right?
He's doing Wood Talk prison rules over here.
Do you always have a stopwatch running in the background? Is that how you monitor how much you're talking, or
That's how he
more
is
for
so
you,
efficient.
more for you than me, I think.
I opened myself up for that. Walked into that one.
Yeah, you did.
Guys, look at my windows.
Wow, the
Oh, wait,
world's
it's
upside
upside
down.
Whoa!
Look at that. Look at all that light coming in. I now have fresh air over here, which means I could fart, and it eventually dissipates. I used to have to sit in my own cloud previously.
I have a window too, but it's blocked by a giant rhododendron.
A giant rhododendron.
What?
All right. I guess I won't get a refill of my coffee. Maybe after the first show. Because we record 3 of them. So.
Oh, do we?
Yeah. All right.
It all just blends together for me.
The world is playing a violin for you right now.
It's
Mark.
all one long giggle.
A violin with a Honda sticker on it.
Yes. I need a Honda tattoo. That would really do it nicely. Okay, 407. Okay. I hope I remember what to say at the beginning.
I don't know.
I took all that stuff out because I say it all by habit now. So it just says 406 up there. I hope I don't mess up.
Welcome to Wood Talk. Now here are 3 guys who like to take big pieces of wood and make them smaller. Mark, Shannon, and Matt.
All right, it's Wood Talk number 406 for September 4th, 2017. And we are back from our vacation. We're refreshed, ready to go. I won't say all that. Vacation was really nice.
I don't know if I'm refreshed.
He lies.
I do lie. It's actually kind of early for me, too.
It's Labor Day. It's a long weekend, and it's early.
It's Labor Day, and we're laboring. So how's that?
I'd say so. This is quite the labor.
It is appropriate. Well, on today's show, we're going to talk about sliding versus non-sliding miter saws, workbench crotchets, storing logs before milling them. That is how it's pronounced, right?
Why did I know that was going to happen when I put that in there?
It's a crotchet. I don't know. If they want it said differently, they should spell it differently. Okay, so we want to thank some folks who helped us out. Paul Hudson. See, and these folks were from Patreon. Jimmy B., Aaron Burt, Miles Cushion, Jason Sismilich, Richard Johnson, Carl Bender, Uncle Don's Woodshop, Scott Fuller, Zach Muller, and Lee Corby. Thank you very much, folks, for helping us out. And if you want to help us out, too, you can. Just go to patreon.com/woodtalk, and you can find all the details there, and we will certainly thank you at the beginning of the show. And, guys, it's been, 3 weeks? I would imagine we've gotten something done in the shop. A little bit of productivity, maybe more than usual.
Just a bit.
I know I could definitely say I got a lot more done, though I still have projects that just don't want to leave the shop because they're outdoor projects, and I'm doing the whole Epiphanes thing, which is like a 3-year commitment to a project.
Yeah.
Like,
Good luck with that.
Yeah, Matt can attest
At least
to.
you're doing it indoors.
Yeah,
You're
that
not
would
dodge in the rain.
right. Well, I did that with my refinish of the table a
That's
few
just
months
dumb.
ago.
Of course he's doing it indoors.
Yeah.
What idiot would finish outside?
Doy.
A big one.
Well, somebody whose table is about the size of his shop.
That's true.
That makes it a little
In
difficult.
the house either.
Just because you have a Game of Thrones design complex doesn't mean that everyone else has to pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's get to what's on the bench. For me, I've got a garden gate that actually was started while Cremona was here and is still going because, Epiphanes. And and I haven't even assembled it because I decided, you know what, let me pre-finish this. That actually does tend to speed things up, or at least makes the results a little bit better. The pieces are nice and flat until you realize that you kind of need to coat one side and then wait for it to dry and then flip it to coat the other. Whereas if this thing is fully assembled, you just kind of have it propped up on something and you could finish both sides or all sides of the boards at the same time. So in this particular case, I don't know that pre-finishing is saving me much time. It might result in a better feel and look to the final finish, but I don't think it's saving me much time at all. So the parts are still disassembled, sitting all over the place, but they're, I don't know if I'll have time to do it today, but pretty soon I'll be gluing it together and fitting the hinges and trying to get this thing up on the wall. And yeah, it's fun stuff. The other thing is
hard. Who's going to help you with that?
Well, Andy's coming over today. So
okay,
we're
good.
having a little barbecue, so maybe I could sucker him into helping me out there with the fence.
I don't think you're going to be moving and hanging that thing by yourself.
It's a heavy one. You're right. Once that thing is assembled, it is pretty heavy. And I'm still at the point where I'm like, boy, I hope these hinges will hold it. I hope the support board, the post that's into the wall, I hope that holds the weight. I may have overbuilt this thing. You never know.
So what you do is you go hang on the gate that's up there right now, and you see if it starts sagging and breaking on you.
Oh, it's going to sag. It's going to sag big time. I'm going to have to put one of those, the big garage fences or driveway fences where they have that support spring-loaded support wheel.
Yep.
I'm going to need one of those on. It's it's a little bit of an eyesore, but at least it doesn't sag. Most likely. The other thing I'm doing, which is again more stupid outdoor finishing stuff, is my Adirondack chairs from the guild were just in desperate need of attention, and I looked at the calendar, and I'm filming a video on this. There's going to be an update video for people who are subscribed to that, just showing how the two different finishes and the two different wood species fared over the course of time. And I looked at the dates, and it was almost 6 years to the day that video was published that I'm readdressing them and refinishing them with this video. And I'm like, that's so cool. It's so cool that we have a thing like that now with the way we publish content, where we could just be like, oh yeah, here's an update on that. And people who haven't heard anything about this project in 6 years are suddenly going to get a video on it and actually see a real-time update on how those things held up. It's just kind of a cool concept.
I think it just scares me. It's been 6 years.
Yeah.
I remember watching that stupid thing.
Dude, I didn't have any kids at the time. That was before Nicole got pregnant. We were childless at that point. So, I mean,
I was a child.
Well, you still are.
Real,
Let's be honest.
child.
Let's be honest.
Like a straight up real child.
Now you're just a man child. So
yes,
a bearded, hairy man child. But it is. I mean, 6 years ago, that's a really long time. So I don't know. It's kind of cool. It's fun to revisit the projects. But I will tell you this: I did learn a lot, and a lot of the outdoor furniture stuff for me, I don't worry too much about it because I consider it all sort of a learning experience, so that if I actually see how this wood behaves or how this finish behaves or how it fails, then I could pass that information on to people. So that's why I wasn't too worried that both of these chairs were getting the crap beat out of them by the weather, because I was learning something. That's what I'm telling myself. You understand?
yeah.
I'm under a little bit of a delusion here, but let's just go with it. So the thing I learned, though, is some woods that are said to be really good, rot resistant, woods that just kind of hold up really well outside, don't hold up as well as I would have expected them to. So something like Western red cedar, I've used it a lot. It was cheap. It was easy to work with, but it just doesn't hold up well. If you put it outside with no finish, it just cracks, it checks. You've got all kinds of little micro fractures in it, and it almost the grain on the top, you start to get peeling of the wood where you can start to pull pieces off. So when it's protected, it seems to need even more protection to avoid that from happening. Now, I've got both of these chairs are Honduran mahogany. One is Fiji mahogany. It's a plantation-grown species, and the other is the kind that you really can't get much anymore, the real deal stuff. Now, both of them had two different finishes. One was just like a teak oil finish. The other was Sicken's Cetal, which is essentially like paint. It's just got a lot of pigment in it. I thinned it a little bit because I didn't like the color that much, but still, it's got a lot of pigment, so it is a more protective varnish style finish with pigment. Both of these chairs, while the one with the pigment held up a little bit better and the wood was more protected, the oil chair became very, very weathered and gray and had that sort of top, I don't know, probably like the top 32nd of an inch of wood was just all like, as soon as you sand it, it just turns to dust, that kind of stuff. But both of the woods, both of these chairs, no splitting, no cracks, nothing. And these things have been, through multiple Arizona summers and a full, pretty much a full year of Colorado weather. And they are in better shape than a piece of Western red cedar I put outside as a test 3 months ago. And that's 6 years of abuse. So it just goes to show you, like, finish is important, but thinking about and actually knowing how these woods behave in a certain environment, the wood itself is a huge part of how well this thing is going to survive in outdoor conditions. And just because someone says Western red cedar is great outdoors, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to hold up the way you think it will.
Sorry, I was expecting some sort of major revelation here, and your revelation was choose good wood. And I'm like, duh.
No. But if you look at like a classic set of, if you look at a classic list of outdoor woods, like, I don't know, like a Wood Magazine article or something that you would find, the best outdoor wood species, they're definitely not created equal. And a lot of people are like, oh, and again, I've heard so many times how good Western red cedar is outside. And
see, it's more than just where it comes from that makes mahogany more expensive than Western red cedar.
Yeah, and it sounds crazy to be like,
it's 90 cents a board foot as compared to $8 a board foot.
Yeah, and if
more there,
and if I built my gate out of Honduran mahogany, you could imagine a lot of people like, are you kidding me? Like, because of the cost, and this is an outdoor project. But that Honduran mahogany outdoor gate would absolutely outlive and do better than the white oak version that I had to make, because I couldn't find the mahogany I wanted, and all I could do was, like, we were pressed for time, so I got white oak and had to live with what I got. And I had similar situations with white oak that doesn't hold up nearly as well as a lot of people think it does outside. So I don't know. There is a revelation there that not, just because they say it works well outside doesn't mean it's going to be crack free and really hold up well. Anyway, I've talked way too much. Shannon, let me hear you talk.
Me to talk.
I would like that.
Okay.
I need to finish my coffee.
I did a bunch of stuff. I completed a whole bunch of projects in an entirely different shop up in Maine, which was just kind of cool. I got a chance to really work on my new workbench up there, that was the true, like, knife in the back type thing. I finished that beautiful workbench and then, like, immediately left it. It's like, I had this wonderful thing and I didn't even get to build anything on it. So I went up there and finished up some projects up there for that new semester in the hand tool school. And
Shannon, I'm going to stop you right there.
Okay.
Your track wasn't loaded this whole time.
Wow.
Oh boy.
So
the good thing,
I have to make a trip out to Denver to be in the club now.
Has Shannon said anything important yet? Or should we keep going?
The good thing here, gentlemen, is that it was only my talking that was like recorded this time, so you guys didn't waste any fuel on this. This was all Mark. And yeah, hold on a second. Test your track. Actually, it was loaded. There's something weird with it.
Something weird.
Hey, the live show has a pretty good rendition of the recording though. Okay.
Oh, well, that's good.
Okay, there you guys are. I quit. I'm done. Oh, geez. All right, you know what? And the thing is, I talked way too long about my stuff, so we're going to have to record this over again. People who are listening live, I'm sorry. This is what happens sometimes when you come back from a 4-week vacation.
This is what happens to people who haven't been doing this for 10 years and should know better.
No. Oh. I've checked out, man. I'm like mentally on vacation still. All right, so hang on. I'm going to get coffee, and this time we're going to actually record the show the right way. Is that okay?
That's probably the secret right there, is you wanted to get coffee before.
I'd see, and I didn't because you made me feel bad.
Yeah.
All right. I'll be right back. Talk about me while I'm gone, please.
Okay.
That Mark guy is so cool. and smart and never makes any mistakes. Oh.
Yeah, I assume that the live show is still recording at this point. Like, can YouTube still hear us? Facebook still hear us?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we can't really talk about Mark.
Oh. I mean, we can. I ain't scared of my own opinions.
So I bought one of those waxed tool rolls from Texas Heritage Woodworks a couple years ago now, I guess. And I had to pull out. I keep all my carving gouges in it. And I had to pull it out the other day. I was trying to air out the shop, having been gone for a week and a half or so. So I had the garage door open, but it was humid as all get out. So like every metallic surface in the room, it started to condensate. And I didn't even think about it. And I open up the tool roll and I'm pulling out gouges, and they're like all covered in this fine mist from the air condensing. But what I discovered was the wax of the tool roll had actually rubbed off on it. So it was actually beating up. So I picked up this carving gouge and it was literally dripping with water. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what a pain. And it like wiped it off, and like my fingers felt almost a little slimy because of the wax in it. But it's now been like a week and a half and there's not a stitch of rust on these things.
Oh.
That's awesome.
Convenient.
What's up, guys? Ready? You ready to do this?
Not really.
Sick of waiting
Again?
for let's pretend everything's great, huh? Now people who are listening live are going to hear how we fake it sometimes.
I think it's like early on a Monday. I'm not even feeling anything right now.
I know. I'm numb.
It's lunchtime on Monday. I'm hungry.
Okay. All right. We're gonna shorten the first part of the show dramatically. Like watch it. It's gonna be abbreviated.
Welcome to Wood Talk. Now here are three guys who like to take big pieces of wood and make them smaller. Mark, Shannon, and Matt.
All right, it's episode number 406 for September 4th, 2017. On today's show, we're talking about sliding versus non-sliding miter saws, workbench crotchets, storing logs before... It's not funny the second time around. Workbench crotchets. Oh, I'm not supposed to mention that.
Isn't this 407?
You stink. Is it?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, it will, because last show was a 406 weekend show.
Because I've already started the show notes, and if it's not 407, I'm not redoing it.
Okay, so it's episode number 407 for 9/4/17. Okay, thanks, guys. Thanks for looking out. We didn't catch that last time. Yeah, we are recording a second time because I screwed something up. So you might hear a couple references to stuff you'll never hear. And anyway, so what was the last thing? Storing logs before milling them is Matt's question.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some Cremona question.
Something like that. Okay, so let's just thank a couple people who helped us out. Paul Hudson. I'm going to have to go and find the people because I actually delete the Patreon notifications. I read them before and I don't remember them, so we'll put those in the show notes. Though.
Why are we even doing a show? This is like
this is what happens when we take time off. We get rusty. This isn't good for us, guys. So if you want to help us out, which you probably don't at this point, patreon.com/woodtalk is where you can go to do that. Let's get to what's on the bench. Now, we had a good long time off. I'm assuming everybody was pretty productive in this time. I've actually been focused on nothing but outdoor style projects, tons of epiphanes in my life, too much, in fact. I'm wondering if there's any way that I could somehow get involved in, I don't know, owning stock in the company at this point, because it seems like I just keep buying cans of epiphanes and throwing it on everything. So I've got a garden gate that I started when Cremona was out here that is still being finished, and then I'm doing redoing my Adirondack chairs, and both of those are getting the Epiphanes CPES treatment, and hopefully it will last a good amount of time. I mean, the Adirondack chairs are about 6 years old at this point, so the old finishes were not. I didn't do that CPES Epiphanes combination. They were just I believe I did teak oil and a couple coats of Sicken Cetal. And both of those, over 6 years, Arizona, 1 year in Colorado, not holding up nearly as well as the Epiphanes would. But I am anxious to see just how well that stuff holds up. Now, Matt, how many years has your farmhouse table had?
The farmhouse table had one.
So
and
one full
chairs
season.
have had a couple now.
Did
The Adirondack chairs, the finish is like not even on there. They're basically unfinished because the finish failed so long ago.
It just like the weather just ate it up.
Yeah, it peeled off a long time ago, and now my cherry is gray.
What?
So I have gray Adirondack chairs.
What did you put on the chairs? Was it Epiphanes?
I was General Finishes Outdoor Oil.
Okay. See, I put that
I
along.
put like 2 or 3 coats on it too, so I got lazy.
I put that along the lines of like the what do you call it? Teak oil product you can get at Home Depot.
Yeah.
Like Watco, that's what it is. Along the same lines, and that's what I had on one of my Adirondack chairs, and it didn't take long before it's just kind of eating away that top layer. So you go to sand it, and that top layer just immediately turns into like dust, and you've actually got to sand quite a bit to get through that stuff. So I'm hoping the Epiphanes, I mean, you got a year ahead of me, so if it starts to fail, let me know ahead of time. I'll go out and treat mine before they get really bad.
I don't know, it's looking pretty good for a whole year out there. It looks exactly the same as it did last summer.
That's good.
So there's that at least. Yeah, at least a year.
Yeah, I got 1 year off. Well, and
I don't think a lot of finishes actually claim more than that. I mean, maybe the CBS stuff does, but I mean, outdoor finishes are meant.
You always
to
need
not
maintenance.
Last, I mean, you can't expect that.
You're essentially
especially
like,
if you're using a film finish, it's going to flake off. There's no way around it.
Well, I think if you're in the Epiphanes world, you're expected to coat, in all likelihood, coat per season. So if you've got a boat or something out there, at the end of the season, you sand it down and you recoat it, and you prevent that flaking and cracking and all that stuff from happening in the first place. So you can't get out of the maintenance schedule with these things. But I'm just wondering.
But you can make it easier by skipping a film finish and just going with an oil. That way you don't have to resand it. You can just reapply.
Yeah, but you're also going to affect the wood in the long run.
How do you figure?
Well, because the oil isn't offering a whole lot of protection. You really are relying on...
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You're relying on the wood itself to do all the work. When you put a film finish, eventually what you're doing is just maintaining the film. And the wood is happily sitting under there going, life is good, life is good. But you got to keep renewing that top coat to protect it. You know what I mean?
Which is why I choose a good wood for my outdoor furniture.
Hey, that's a good thing. So do I. So yeah, let's talk about that for a second. So both of these chairs are Honduran mahogany. One is a plantation-grown Fiji mahogany, and the other is true Honduran mahogany that you're not supposed to buy. Or can you even buy that anymore, Shannon?
Actual Honduran? No.
Yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't come from Honduras.
Okay.
Most of it hasn't come from Honduras.
If a company has some in inventory that they just haven't been able to move, but it was, it was.
Yeah. There's nothing.
They could sell it off.
It's a CITES 2 species. It's still tradable. It's just more expensive. But I question whether or not it actually came from Honduras.
Okay.
I mean, you're talking like 40, 50 years before.
Gotcha.
It's Central American mahogany.
Yeah. So the species
or
is the same,
American
but the locale it was grown is questionable.
Right.
So both of these chairs have held up so well. So the wood itself is just super durable. Like if I could build anything from now on, anything that goes outside, I want to make it from Honduran mahogany because the stuff just holds up. Everything I built out of other species outside tends to crack, and it really relies on that top coat to save it from doing what Mother Nature wants it to do. These species are just kind of sitting out there with very little finish protecting them at all, and it's happy. So, Matt, yours is cherry.
Yeah.
How's the wood itself holding up at this point?
Better than I thought it would. I've got some end grain checking, like on the top of the backsplats, but that's really about it.
Okay.
It's not rotting at all.
So that's an interesting thing. I would almost expect any wood would do that, but these chairs, if you look at the top of the chairs, the end grain of those back pieces, there isn't a crack or split to be seen on any of them. Right? I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, this stuff is just not created equal. There's some species that are just way better at enduring weather conditions. So anyway, that's all I have to say.
If they grew in a tropical forest, there's a good, safe bet that they're going to do all right.
Yeah. So screw those domestics, baby. What a waste. All right, Shannon, what do you got going on?
Creating controversy. Lovely.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Nice. All right, I'll jump in here. I went up to Maine while we were gone. I finished up 3 projects on my new workbench up there. It was really fun to play with a new workbench. Instead of just building it and then pushing it into a corner and leaving it there, which was very sad. But that was a blast. I mean, as much as I enjoy my my shop with its creature comforts and the nice tools and all the work that I put into it, there was something very fun about just going to a blank space with lots of natural light and like cool breezes and seagulls in the background.
You didn't miss your
water.
You didn't miss your Philips Hue lights.
I've been trying to recreate the same light in here for a while.
Yeah, you're trying to get that main house light.
I mean, it was a royal pain to film. I can tell you that much. With all the natural light and lots of like shadowy dark spots in there.
Yeah, you got to fill a bunch of stuff in.
Just right. And there's no way to shoot without backlight in that place. I had like a 1 foot square that I could stand in that didn't get any backlight. So it was interesting to try to film that. But yeah, I got those 3 projects done and came back to the shop here, and I've been milling up some walnut to start a wall mirror. So been busy, been very busy.
Nice.
So
wow.
the fact of the matter is that it's wood talk that kills my productivity, because we didn't have wood talk and I got a lot done.
Yeah, that is a good cause and effect to draw there. I think that's a good relationship. I have the same feeling. If wood talk just prevents me from getting lots of things done.
You should name this title the Wood Talk Pity Party.
Yeah. Woe is us. It's terrible. All right. Speaking of pity, why don't you go now, Matt?
Oh, thanks.
What? It's fine.
Nothing.
I was
All right,
being
there's
nice.
a lot of stuff.
I was being nice.
Hey, shut your mouth. I'm talking. All right, so.
And nothing changes.
uh,
You'd think we'd be nicer to each other after spending a week together at my house, but yeah, no dice.
I would anticipate the opposite, actually.
I think if you get more friendly with someone, you get more mean to them. You know?
That's right.
It gets even more so.
Yep.
Yeah, so yeah, I spent the week at Mark's place. That was like almost a month ago already.
Yeah, it was a while ago. Well, we're going to talk about that in the weekend show, so we'll go into detail, talk actually more broadly, talk about what it's like to work with someone in your shop. So if you're just itching to hear how it all went down, we'll tell you that. You got to wait till the weekend.
Well, I just want to know one thing, because it doesn't have anything to do with working with somebody in the shop.
Okay.
Does Nicole actually smark Mac around when he's not on camera? Because I envision that a lot. I envision she's very heavy-handed and just like lots of backhands.
Shannon, not when there are guests around.
I wouldn't think that would slow her down. She's a Missouri girl.
There are like, legal concerns here. Yeah, we're not really very violent, but I'll let Matt answer that question. Are we a violent family, Matt?
Like violently loving each other?
Yes, we love each other violently. That's a great way to describe it.
There's lots of PDA in the Spagnuolo household.
Yeah.
Yes. Fantastic. Yeah, let's talk about that later.
Oh, man.
Because that's a rabbit hole.
That's the wood.
Anyway, all kinds of stuff you got done. What'd you get done?
So we did picture frames and things at your place and the Varsal at your place. So we'll talk about that later.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got back here. I've been working on the high boy, and that's going to get glued up. The lowercase is getting glued up this afternoon. Pretty excited about that because it's been a while coming, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I painted my sawmill.
Yeah,
So
what's up with that? Why'd you do that? Given into the internet pressure, or you just wanted to see it?
I've been putting it off for a while.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Okay, fair enough. Do an Instagram story for the show.
There's not a whole lot there to that, I guess.
Weren't people giving you crap about it though, in terms of like the potential for rust and protecting it? They wanted to see you paint this thing.
According to them, it would have already rusted away. And it shouldn't even be there anymore.
It should be a pile of dust.
Yeah. But when I built it and I got it running and I got it cutting, and like if anyone was following along with that in the moment, like I was so sick of building a sawmill. I was like, I just want to cut stuff.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm just cutting stuff.
Right.
Ratchet straps holding the covers on, don't care. No belt guard, don't care.
Mm-hmm.
No lube system, I gotta do it manually. I don't care. I gotta stand there anyway. Yeah. Like I just want to be cutting stuff. So I've been cutting stuff. It's been fun. I literally have nothing here to cut anymore. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take this thing apart finally and get it painted up because I've been putting it out for a long time. And I'm almost done with the plans for the mill. So I want to have like the first version, like the manual version mill, which is what I was building right now, done, so that when the plans are done, like you can actually see like this is the final thing of the plans, as opposed to here's some like thing that someone slapped together based off these plans that they never finished. So I'm playing that game as well with that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds
and then
good, man.
tomorrow night I'm going to England. For,
What?
Like 12 days.
Jolly old England?
Jolly old England.
Hey, my brother lives around there. You should say hi while you're there.
Hi there.
It's not that big of a place, right? You should be able to find him.
I have
You're
no idea.
going. You're going where? To Yandles? What's
I'm
the
going
show?
to Yandles. That'll be crap. That's already this weekend. I'll be there this weekend at Yandles for their 2-day open house show thing, whatever
Nice.
whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Yandles is like a lumber yard and like a tool store, like all together. Like if Rockler Woodcraft actually had like wood for real, that kind of thing.
Oh, that's terrible.
Compared to the fake wood they sell now.
That's so
Oh,
condescending.
yeah, they have a few boards. They have like 20 board feet of everything. It's all surface, but like they don't have a whole lot of stuff because they don't have floor space for it or whatever. But anyway, so I'm doing that, and then next week I'm doing a green chair making class with Shannon style. So I'm gonna be rocking a pole lathe and
Nice.
some kind of cool stuff like draw knives and shave ponies and things. I'll have all the lingo down when I get back. So I think maybe Shannon can take a bow out, and I'll just handle. all
Oh,
the
you're
pencil
taking
stuff.
the class. I thought you were saying you were teaching the
Teaching.
class. I'm like, what?
Yeah. So on the plane, I'm going to be studying all the lingo.
So when I'm flying over,
Gotta be prepared to
all the
teach.
episodes, the Renaissance woodworker loaded up. I signed up for the hand tool school. I'm gonna get through everything so that next week I can do the whole class.
Oh,
It's gonna be a
man.
long flight.
Awesome. Are you going to be able to,
Gonna say,
like...
you're going into like England, like where they invented the pole lathe, and you're gonna teach it. There's gonna be some old bodger coming out of the woods just to like beat you with his spring pole. Like, get out of here!
Dude, that's all of our claim to fame. Like for all of us, we just started teaching people like 2 minutes after we learned how to do something. That's how we do it.
It's true.
That's fine. Are you going to be able to like film?
Windsor chair. Hold on there. What was that?
Are you going to be able to film anything? I mean, because you're taking the class, you don't want to be the guy with a camera.
Oh well, Triton's doing that, so I don't have to worry about it. So
So you have a film crew.
Yeah.
All right, Mark, you're off the hook on the Honda money thing.
Yeah.
Film crew, come
See a
on
film
over
crew
here.
around here, huh? No, Mr.
so
Mr. Triton money over there.
And Triton's gonna be doing some videos about the whole thing. They'll be doing a video on me doing the class while I'm there. It's gonna be
All right.
fun.
You know what?
Public service announcement. Anyone who's taking this class with Matt, please, 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 please take photos of Matt being followed by his film crew. Matt in makeup, Matt with like the little Kleenexes sticking out of his collar.
Yes.
as
Yeah.
they makeup. Please. I will actually pay you for this. Please.
That sounds fantastic. You know, honestly, that sounds like the worst video ever. To watch a video of someone else taking a woodworking class. Watch Matt learn how to use this tool. I don't know.
Watch Matt doze off in the class. Here's Matt picking his nose.
Well, seriously though, that sounds good. Have a safe trip, man. That's that's gonna be it's gonna be one for the books. That's pretty cool.
It will be, because like what's really cool is because when I was there with you, Mark, we did power carving on the seat.
Yeah.
Well, this class is all hand tool carving, so I'll be doing a seat, kind of like the same thing I just did at your place, but with
Right.
hand tools.
Traditional tools. That's sweet.
Yeah.
You
I'm like, give me my Arbortech.
you gonna be doing it on a Babinga seat or?
Yeah.
Probably not.
I hope. Probably. I highly doubt it. I'm not even sure what we're using.
Something
I'll find
soft. I'm sure. Okay, well that sounds cool. So are you not going to be here for our next show? I assume then.
Unless I'm going to try and be a robot, Matt.
Yeah, it just depends on how Skype holds up. Okay,
Only
well,
if you promise to use a British accent.
oh, that'd be great.
Oh, I'm not that good.
Or just get somebody else with a
what
British
I'm
accent to
counting
stand in. That'd be good.
Yeah, there you go. I just have someone else do the show for me that has an actual accent.
Accents are good. Okay, so let's get into what's new. Just got a couple things here to share with you. Danny on Facebook sent me this video. It's on YouTube. It's a company that makes $300,000 stereo speakers.
Oh, yeah. I've seen these people before.
Awesome. And I'm sure I wouldn't be able to hear the difference, but because I don't have those, golden ears, but really cool. It's always cool to see these processes, and especially how a bigger company like this uses some old techniques and are talking about like hand cut wood joinery. You see some really nice dovetails being done as a guy's fitting a case together. Stuff that it seems completely impractical unless you charge $300,000 and actually get someone to buy it. So
Yeah.
very cool stuff.
It's interesting. This is actually not that uncommon. I mean, 300,000 is kind of at the top, but I actually, at the lumberyard, we sell to 3 manufacturers who make 6-figure plus speakers.
Wow.
You know, they're like $110,000, $130,000 speakers. It's nuts. I had no idea there was a luxury speaker market.
There's a luxury everything market.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
People like to spend their money.
This is relatively new. It's been teased for a while, but Freddie Roman has been teasing that he's going to be doing a podcast for a while. And the Against the Grain podcast is now out. I think the first 3 episodes have been released. This is Freddie Roman, Justin DePalma, and Guy Dunlap. So 3 professionals. Should be a really, really interesting listen. I got like 5 minutes into the intro and then
turned it off.
Life happened, and I'm kind of anxious to get back to it.
That's a hell of an endorsement, Shannon.
It's so good. I can't listen to this. I'm not good enough to listen to this.
5 minutes in, and I got bored.
All right, I had to rethink that little phrase there. The funny thing is, like, if you go looking for Against the Grain podcast, you're going to find a very different podcast, like a holistic medicine type podcast. So I was actually, when I put this into the show notes, I was trying to find the link. I can't find it. The only reason I found it in the first place is Freddie posted it on Facebook, and I clicked that link to the like iTunes store, like on my phone, and I subscribed right there. But through Google, I have not been able to find anything but this holistic medicine, Against the Grain nutrition type podcast. So don't subscribe to that unless you're really into that.
It's funny you should say that, because when I saw, I don't know, it might have been on Instagram or something, I saw it was finally released. I was like, oh, let me go and subscribe to it real quick. I had the same problem, and I quickly came to the realization that Against the Grain might not have been the best name for them to pick, because there's about 30 podcasts called Against the Grain. And I had pretty much 100% of them, with the exception of theirs, is not about woodworking.
Yeah.
You know, it's too much of a typical phrase that's just used, you know, in common language, that it's used so much that it actually does make it difficult to find their show. So
the irony is it's used so much that most people have no idea what they're talking about. When we say Against the Grain, it's immediate, like, visceral image comes to our mind, and other people are like, oh yeah, that dovetails nicely with what I'm telling you. It's just a run-of-the-mill expression that goes against the grain.
Yeah, and I think there's a Bad Religion album that's called Against the Grain too. And I'm wondering, I don't remember the lyrics, but I don't think it's about woodworking.
So anyway, Freddie, I've heard you listen from time to time. Send me a link.
I have it. I'll send you a link.
Okay, good.
We won't promote your show until you send us a link. You better be listening.
And I have.
Find it. Now,
I
granted,
did.
I only tried for like a minute, but I couldn't find it.
I did listen to the show for more than 5 minutes. In fact, I listened to a couple of episodes, and it's very good. I like the idea of having. What's interesting about this, and where a lot of the audio shows are going now, is we're finding the niches growing and sort of the deeper niches growing. So now you've got this show that represents, you know, very sort of professional perspective on it, and hearing their perspective on the craft as well as their perspective on, you know, content production and things that's happening. Then you have your shows that are purely content production. Then you have your shows that are like just talking about stats and how to better your show. It's purely for people who are making content and trying to you know, excel on social media. So it's interesting to see the variety of these that are coming up as sort of the third or fourth generation of this sort of craft podcast thing coming out at this point. It's interesting to see the variety, and this is definitely a good one to have in your lineup.
Cool.
Okie doke.
The last thing I had in here is a little self-promotion. I released a new semester, the Hand Tool School. That's what I was doing up in Maine. Hey,
sorry.
My own podcast.
Censorship.
I can't promote my stuff on my own podcast.
All right, go ahead.
Oh, it's promotion day? Sweet. Let's promote the guild.
Okay, so
no, this is we had a conversation earlier, and actually I think this is in the first time we tried to record this show, and it failed. But we talked about how cool it is that, like, we've been doing this long enough that you can reference something from 6 years ago, 7 years ago, and actually update the video on it. Because Mark was updating. Here, Mark, I'll promote your stuff. How's that?
Thanks, appreciate that.
Mark did an Adirondack build in the guild, and you know, he refinished it now, so now he's able to push out a new video, and it, like, people who subscribed are going to get this, you know, which is just very cool that the content's been around that long. I built this orientation semester after running the Hand Tool School for more than 7 years. It's like 7 years? What? That can't be. But it is the product of 7 years of learning how woodworkers learn, and like what questions total newbies to the craft have. because even though my semester 1 is meant to be a beginner thing, there's a lot of stuff that I think that it tends to gloss over. Stuff that somebody who's been doing it for a while, you kind of forget, you know. And this is the result of that. I'm pretty excited about it. I think it really it's a great entry point for a lot of people. So,
nice.
Sales pitch over.
That sounds good though. I can't wait to not watch it.
I watched the intro on YouTube. On the YouTubes.
On the YouTubes. All right. So we got some kickback over here. And we've got one that I'm going to read and then a bunch of voicemail kickbacks. Or are they kickbacks or kicks back? What's the plural?
You're thinking too hard.
Well, of course. That's what I do. Okay. So this is from Steven.
I don't know, but if they had saw stop, they wouldn't have that problem. Oh, wait.
Yes, they would.
Prevent kickback.
Yep.
Sorry.
Wah, wah. All right. So the missus and I just moved into a new house after living in a relative's spare bedroom for 6 months. And in the interest of having furniture now, instead of waiting for me to make... Hold on. I got to make this a little wider. To make the furniture we needed at my pace of somewhere between geologic... Okay, here's another pronunciation question. Epic or epoch? What do you prefer?
Epoch.
I like epic. Matt, have an opinion? Coffee?
No, I literally have no opinion.
Okay, so he says somewhere between geologic, epic, and Shannon. I choked down my pride and bought a few inexpensive flat pack furniture items, the real cheap stuff, not even the good Swedish stock. And looking over the instructions, I was reminded of a conversation a few episodes back. You joked about calling pocket screws loose metal tenons. Well, my friends, the cheap pressboard furniture makers have caught on because they don't call them dowels or cam screws anymore. Nope, they were labeled wood and steel tenons all throughout the instructions.
Huh.
That's funny.
Wood and steel tenons.
Yeah, wood and steel tenons. I mean,
I like it.
I guess.
good for them for, trying to make it sound better. But does the average person even care? Like, who's buying that $100 entertainment center?
Do they even know what a tenon is?
Yeah, would they know the difference? They'd be like, oh, this screw thing, you call that a tenon? Okay, thanks. It seems almost like it would be...
I wonder if it's in response to people who do know that, like, screwed together furniture isn't good. Mm-hmm. You know, there's that next tier of low quality furniture buyer.
Yeah.
Who says, oh, I don't want that screwed together crap. You know, maybe it's in response to IKEA or something. I don't know. Right. That's weird.
Yeah.
Wood and steel tenons. I like that.
Or do they refer to the boards as like, I don't know, wood and resin hybrid something, so they don't have to call it particle board.
Right. Yeah.
Smart.
Instead of termite barf, it is, yeah.
Okay. So let's get to a couple of the voicemails here. First one is from Brian. He's got a little kickback on the Honda Ridgeline.
Hey guys, this is Brian from Charlotte. I have a kickback from 2 or 3 episodes ago where you guys were poking fun at the Honda Ridgeline. I just want to say that I don't find it fair. I have a friend who has a Honda Ridgeline and says it's the best work truck he's ever owned. Incidentally, I'm on my way to pick him up on the side of the road. He called me and told me his truck broke down for some reason. I don't know. All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
It's purely a coincidence, I'm sure. Actually, a friend of mine back in Arizona actually loves the Ridgeline and finally was able to get one of the new ones and absolutely adores that vehicle. So, it's cars. People get uptight about that stuff for some reason. Okay, so next one is Jonathan. He's got, you'll hear what he's got to say.
Hello, Mark, Matt, and Shannon. Yesterday I was hand planing some walnut and I took a drink of iced coffee. I noticed it tasted different. We all know that smell influences our taste, so I took a pile of shavings and put it to my nose and took another drink. Now woodworkers can enjoy coffee in a new way. I posted a short video to my Instagram, Jonathan L. Griffith. Jonathan is spelled Jonathan, if you want to check it out.
Okay. So,
okay, here we go.
Got to admit, I'd never tried that. But at least we know how to spell Jonathan. Okay, so Martin West wrote in with none of these are really about woodworking. You ever notice that? About a new nickname.
Greetings, albino gorilla, hairy giggler, and player to be named later. It's Martin West from Peterborough, Ontario, Canada. Greetings, guys. Love the show. I think I've solved the problem of Mark's new handle / nickname. It takes into account his Italian heritage, his home state of New Jersey, and also a play on words on wood species. Are you ready? Drum roll, Mark. Buddy bingo. Tony Soprano would be proud. What say you?
Bada binga. I like it. I could live with that. I'm also half Hungarian. But I shouldn't mention that because then it ruins the joke. Okay, so we've got one from Mike Powers. This actually does have something to do with woodworking.
Hi guys, this is Mike from Turning Sawdust into Groceries. Have a quick kickback about the dude with the hickory planing problem. A great tip I got from my mentor is to get a small container of really hot tap water and a rag and wipe down the surface of the board, the side that's going through the planer. Let it soak in a little bit. No, it's not going to warp your board. No, it's not going to ruin your finish. You're going to plane it all off. But the water soaks in, especially the hot water, you know, as in like how well that works for steaming out dents and stuff like that. It really helps soften up the grain so that you can run it through the planer, and it really decreases the tear out quite a bit. Also, keeping an eye on grain direction as it goes through the planer. I always mark my boards on the edge of the boards, to which way the grain is flowing so that the grain isn't shooting up into the cutter head. Anyway, love the show. I guess that's it. Adios.
I got nothing else to say, so
that's awesome.
Goodbye. Okay. This could perhaps be my favorite voicemail ever. This is from Matt Scranton.
Hello, gentlemen. Matt Scranton here in Buffalo, New York again. 2017 for me is all about trying to be a better person, and because of this, I actually have a question for Shannon. Giggler and Gassy Guido, I guess that means you guys can for a while. All right, Shannon, here's my question. So hopefully that gives you enough information to give an informed opinion. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts, or if you have any tips. Thanks, guys. Keep up the great work.
It's really bad because it took me like way longer than it should have to know what the heck was this going on.
What is he doing?
Yeah, it took me a couple seconds
too. Scratching records over there?
Is that some kind of like
bed noises?
Is that some kind of noise that like a saw makes when you're cutting? I'm like, no, that's not quite right. Yeah. Nah. And I was like, oh yeah, never mind.
We're just getting to that point now where if you haven't listened to a bunch of the shows, you're just lost. Like the inside jokes are just over your head.
See, the thing is, though, is I've been to the zoo enough times that sounds more like a chimpanzee or a monkey than a gorilla.
It really does sound like a smaller
gorillas
variety.
Roar, they make really deep. Haven't you seen King Kong? Come on, it's not a gorilla.
It's definitely more of a scary sound when they decide to make noise.
Yeah,
it's kind of like this show. Okay, so we actually do have a voicemail question. This one,
thank God.
This one comes from Vinny.
Wait, what?
Yeah, surprisingly. And we were talking about Honduran mahogany earlier, so this is relevant to what I'm doing now.
Hey guys, Vinny in Atlanta. Hope all is well. I'll get right to the point of my question. I got some Honduran mahogany boards from Bell Forest. Nice quality boards. Definitely not under the African mahogany umbrella. Anyway, they came surfaced, and the boards that had cathedrals were just shredded. So I figured, all right, they probably went through the planer in the wrong direction or whatever. Anyway, I had the same problems. Even when I took my number 4 smoother to it at various angles, didn't even tear it out. It was ripping it out by the roots. So finally, with sanding, I got it nice and flat, and when I applied finish to it, was interesting. On the cathedrals, it was like every other ribbon would soak up finish, and the other one, it would pull on top. It was almost as if the cathedral was half end grain. Really crazy, really pretty. I mean, it's got, it almost looks like that African mahogany rift sawn ribboning you get, but it's on a cathedral. Never saw anything like it. Just wanted your take on what's going on with that wood. and maybe how I can look for it on a unfinished board in the future when I'm selecting them. Thanks, guys. Love the show, and take care. Bye-bye.
Interesting. Have you ever come across that, Shannon?
I think that's what we call rowy mahogany. I mean, genuine mahogany is still interlocked, like African mahogany. So you can actually get ribbon striping with genuine mahogany.
Okay.
But genuine is a lot softer. Well, not a lot, but it's softer than the African species. So it is going to be, one might say, punkier than some of the other ribbon stripe stuff that you see. I mean, that would be a lower grade mahogany if it's coming up with that. As far as how you see it in the raw, I mean, you're still going to see those kind of light and dark type strains through the cathedrals, because what you've got is it's a interlocked or spiraled type growth where you've got one growth ring running one way and one growth ring running the other way. So it is going to show up and reflect light differently when you look at it. But it also, that particular board may have been just the way it was cut, like the way it lay in the log. Matt, you know what I'm talking about here, where you can get wider spaced cathedrals based on like how that board lay in relation to the long axis of the log. You know, and they may have had a section where they were trying to cut around something, and maybe the cant itself was canted in the log. And that caused kind of a more of a diagonal grain, which accentuated that rowy, soft, punky parts. And whereas you may not notice it before, because generally you're looking at a thinner cross section of it. Now you've angled it and you've widened that cross section, and that's what's created that thinner or wider, kind of less dense type stuff. That would be my guess.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, mahogany is very interlocked. It's just so homogeneous in its like pore structure that you usually can avoid some of the nasty stuff, and it's not nearly as brittle as like African mahogany or sapele or udally or anything.
Okay, good to know. All right, so let's get to our emails, and I'll take the first one here from William. He says, I have a compound miter saw question, so this is obviously aimed at Shannon. Sorry, I'm going to answer it. If you other two want to chime in, I guess that'll be okay too. Anyway, my question is regarding sliding saws versus non-sliding. It seems to me that sliding compound miter saws have more side-to-side play in them once fully extended than a non-sliding miter saw ever would. If accuracy is my top priority and cutting capacity a distant second, I feel like it'd be better off buying a non-sliding miter saw on the market, which is probably a little more than half the cost of the second best sliding saw on the market, eliminating festool because it screws up the curve that I'm trying to grade to. Yeah, you kind of have to always leave the outlier out of there, and leave the Chicago Electric Harbor Freight brand out of there as well from the lower end. Does this seem logical, or am I trying to justify to myself not spending as much money on a miter saw? Also, any thoughts as to what the best non-sliding miter saw would be? Appreciated if any of you have experience with any of them. Also note that I'm not referring to the alignment issue Mark posted on Instagram on his test Makita, just a regular side-to-side hinge slop. Okay, so this is something that is a evolving perspective that I've got, at least for me personally. And in my opinion on the sliding compound miter saw is changing, because when I had the Kickback, there was a level of accuracy and dependability there that changed the way I would cross-cut things. Because if I can get a nice, accurate cross-cut, it was like having a little mini panel saw of sorts with very limited range that I would be able to make really accurate cross-cuts with, and it stopped me from having to use my cross-cut sled all the time. So think about it. If you've got one saw that you could just take the board, boop, put it up, clamp it down, and cut, versus, okay, well, now I got to take the guard off the saw, and then I have to put the cross-cut sled on top, make sure everything is set up, and then make your cut. It was just a format thing that made so much more sense to me. So now that I've gotten away from the Kickback and I'm working more with the construction grade brands, I've got a Bosch and I was trying out a Makita, I feel like the Kickback has skewed my expectations of what these saws are supposed to do and what they're capable of doing. Now the Makita, like he says, that's a whole different issue. There was a manufacturing flaw there. But even if there is no flaw, is the play that you have in that sliding compound miter saw Is that appropriate for fine cuts, you know, and the stuff that he's trying to do, and precision and super accurate cuts? And I think the answer is no. I think you might get lucky. You might get one tuned up, put a really good blade on it, and you can get good results from it for sure, but it's not necessarily the best tool for that job. So if you have other options like a crosscut sled, and those are producing dependable results, I actually am starting to think that it might just be better to have a standard chop saw that doesn't slide, because you're not using it to cut anything more than like a 6 to 8 inch board, or whatever the capacity would be for one of those, like a 12-inch chop saw. I just feel like, yeah, if you just want a dead-on accurate 90 on a small board, or you're cutting, you know, some type of molding or something like that, the less or the fewer parts that move, the more sturdy that thing is going to be, and the less chance of it going out and being off from 90. So yeah, I'm actually starting to think about, well, maybe, you know, this sliding compound miter saw thing isn't all it's cracked up to be, and that I should be using my crosscut sled more. Matt, when you were out here, now granted we were having a problem with that Makita at the time, so you know all bets are off. But we were doing miters. So the key with a miter is you get something that's set up perfect at 90, and if it's built well, you just move it to 45 and you're going to get perfect miters. So we were looking at the differences between, should we be using a miter gauge at the table saw, or should we go with the slider? And we just kept running into problems, and it was just like, it was not worth it to do it on the sliding compound miter saw. And instead we just did most of the miters over at the table saw, and the results were perfect, like dead on perfect. There was like a lot of times I think, oh, you might want to get a shooting board or something like that just to finesse them. There was no need. There just was no need for it. Everything was perfect. So yeah, my opinion on this is changing as time goes on, but I would say, I think your thought process here is right on, William. I would definitely look at some of the current ones. Excuse me. As far as brands, I haven't dealt with them myself, and you're still looking at the same brands that you would be looking at in the sliding market. I know a lot of people like the DeWalt models. You know, I think Makita. I'm sure Bosch has a non-slider option as well, but I've never really looked into them. So it's going to be a new area for me to explore. So I guess I'll have to let you know.
More things for you.
I just don't get it. I mean, that was the first tool that I got rid of. And well before I started down the hand tool path, it just, to me, it's more of a contractor job site saw, and it's fantastic because it's something you can put in the back of a truck, Honda Ridgeline or any other truck, and you take it to a job site and you use it for cutting like long molding strips and things like that. So the compound, the compound thing was, you know, there for compound angles, crown molding and stuff. The sliding thing came in because it's like, all right, now people want a wider cut capacity. But that was still such a small part of what you actually needed it for. Like, how often did you need to do it? It's like, well, if you're a stair builder, you know, I'm cutting stair treads. But so much of what the miter saw has been expanded into do is something that, like, your table saw is going to do better, right? You know, then it's like, well, job site table saws, they're kind of crappy. Okay. But if for our particular world, you know, the wood shop woodworker, forgive the expression, the fine woodworker making furniture and stuff like that.
Oh, how dare you.
I don't see the place for that particular tool. I feel like, I don't know. I mean, people will say, yeah, but it does really, really long stuff really well. Okay. I mean, are you building a lot of stuff that requires 12, 15 foot long pieces, you know, that are difficult because they're cantilevered off your table saw or whatever? I don't know. You know, and if you're just using it to break down stock, there's so many other ways, you know, that could be done. I don't know. I don't get the miter saw thing at all.
It's convenient. I mean, if you have other ways to break down stock, let's say that is the use case, they're all going to take longer, you know? So it is a convenient thing, but if you're looking at it as a precision tool, that's when things start to break down.
Yeah.
And I think that was where my getting it falls apart. Because it's like, it really doesn't add much to the, you know, if you wanted to break down stock, yeah, it's faster than a scroll saw. You know, it's faster than a
I think it is. Do you mean a jigsaw?
Not a scroll saw, jigsaw. Sorry.
That's what I want to see. Oh,
I've been trying to cut this 8-quarter board for 5 hours, and I keep breaking blades. What am I doing wrong?
But, you know, a circular saw will do it really, really quickly. Granted,
it can.
A lot of people are scared with kickback, and I've seen some crazy stuff at the lumberyard.
And you need the right setup to do it.
Right.
You know.
Right. But you know, it's not so precise. So I've always looked at it as a rough type tool.
When I was at William Ing's, and this was when I had the Capex, and I had to wrap my brain around, doing things a little bit of a different way because it's someone else's shop. He had the crappiest sliding compound miter saw sitting on the bench, and it was just, we're talking to school, so it's a very wide bench. It's always set up, ready to go, so you want that quick kind of tool to do that job. And he's got this sliding compound miter saw there, and I'm like, this is just garbage. Like, how is he going to get any good results out of this thing? Because, again, I'm thinking, that he's doing something other than a quick chop at 90 degrees. But that's all he uses it for. And there was no reason to have anything else because he has everything else in the shop dedicated to those really accurate, precise cuts that you need to make. It was just, to me, again, this is a evolving thought process here. I'm starting to think that's the smarter way to go. So Matt, I want to know, what's your setup at home? What do you have in terms of a miter saw, and what's the use case?
I have the Makita 12-inch slider. It's on the floor.
Okay.
And I use it almost never. Well, I use it for any, miter cuts on stuff. But even I don't know. I'll use it on the high boy to do the gooseneck molding because that stuff is an S-curve and you got to mount it up vertically on the saw and it's 3 inches thick. So I'll use it for that. That's the use case for it. That'd be really hard to do on a table saw. It wouldn't be impossible, but I think it'd be pretty scary to do on a table saw. That's really it. It's just nice for if I'm trying to fit a molding around a case and I'm trying to get the angle just right. So instead of using a shooting board, I'll use the miter saw and just keep it right there and just chop at it.
Sneak up on it.
Until I get the angle right. But because it's right there by the bench then.
Yeah.
So I don't have to walk across the shop every time. But I don't really use it a whole lot for much anything. I use it for stuff around the house. I've been doing trim work. That was probably the last time I used it for real, was installing trim. But
which you might even, in that case, you might take it out, put it in the room, and you're doing your work on location in those situations,
it was upstairs. Right? It wasn't in the shop at that time.
See, and this is one of the
Which
most...
is what I think the saw is made for, right? It's a job site saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Well, one of the most requested things I've gotten, whether it's Guild or Free Site, people want to see me do a miter saw station. And I've been hesitant to do it because part of my problem is I don't want a dedicated miter saw station, right? Now give me a bank of cabinets and I throw a miter saw on it. Okay, I'm fine with that, but I just don't, and especially now, I'm getting even further away from this whole extreme miter saw station concept because I feel like I'm pulling away from that. So that the miter saw might be just one of 3 or 4 benchtop tools that need a home, including the benchtop mortiser and maybe my bench grinder or some sharpening stuff. So this, before I commit to anything, I've really got to figure out what the heck I'm doing with this because it feels so weird to pull back from a tool that I've really relied on so much for years. But I think my expectations are off and misplaced a little bit.
Yeah, that was the dumbest thing I ever did in my shop was a full-blown miter station. It took up so much space.
Right, and it does only that thing.
I tried to integrate it into the lumber rack, and it was, it's right under the lumber rack where all the rough cutting will be done. I was so glad when I broke that thing down. It was it just got 100 square feet back.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. Long answer, William. Sorry about that. Hopefully that helped you out. I think he's going to go get a regular chop saw.
Don't buy a miter saw. Just don't do it.
Don't even bother. Just get a nice sled. Incra 5000 will be good. One of those big giant sled things.
It looks really good in the box.
It does. Matt saw it in the box. Well, here's the thing, Matt. It's still in the box, but now it's at least leaning against... I'm actually using Nicole's method of trying to get me to do stuff on myself. So if she wants me to clean something or maybe put something back into the shop, she'll put it in my path so that I can't miss it, right?
It's in the way now.
So now I've done the same thing to myself. I put the parts against the table saw. I have to address these things before doing anything else. It's probably still not going to work.
At least you know.
Yeah, I know my limitations.
What I find interesting is your relationship with Nicole is exactly the opposite of mine with my wife. I'm putting stuff in her path to get her to do things.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we actually get on each other's case 50-50, but it's about very different things. So, we have different jobs. So when she leaves dishes in the kitchen, it drives me nuts. But if I leave my underwear on the floor, that drives her nuts. So it's all good.
Oh, man, I really missed some cool stuff when I was there. Underwear on the floor? All right.
You never went in my bedroom. You would have seen plenty
That's
of
what
it.
you call cool stuff.
I assumed it wasn't in the bedroom.
Look out, Great Britain.
Yeah, I don't leave my underwear.
Well, underwear on the floor is cool stuff.
The kids leave their underwear all over the place. Mine is isolated to usually our bathroom. Okay. I think, Matt, I think you're up.
I'll make this one quick. This should be a lot quicker in comparison.
Yeah.
All right. This is from Nick. He says, if you store logs for a few months to a year outside, especially overwintering them, do you debark them or leave them as is? And how long can you store logs before milling? Okay. So I can give you what I do, and it's going to be different because I live here in the frigid north, apparently. If you are down south where you have to deal with insects, you might have a different way of thinking about this. So I leave the bark on the logs as long as possible because that gives the logs an added layer of protection from the sun and from the elements and things like that, just to keep them a little more protected. That way you don't have the actual bare wood being struck by the sun. It could start cracking, and you start getting some really big checks that could extend deep into the logs. And then when you start cutting boards out of that log, you end up with those checks that are in the board itself. So you end up with a board that's basically split in half. So you get two narrow boards how about this? Two boards that are next to each other that have live edges on both sides, kind of, in a sense. One side's a crack and one side's the edge of the log.
Nice.
As far as storing them go, I'll keep them off the ground and, if possible, out of the sun again. Shady spot on some other small logs or on some 6x6s or something, just to keep them off the ground so they don't have any problem with rot. And it keeps them dry enough so that the insects don't go ahead and start living in there either. So, and you can keep them out there. Ideally, you want to saw them as soon as possible. It's easier to saw lumber when it's wet. So if you've ever done green turning or dry turning, it's so much easier to turn a green bowl than it is to turn a dry one. Same concept with sawing logs. It is so much easier to saw them when they're green. And then the other thing, too, is they'll get them drying faster. You can start using them faster. And you don't have to worry about the defects of the stress building up in the log as it's sitting there, essentially drying out and building stress.
Okie dokie.
Okie dokie.
I always wonder about that. Every time I go, there's a sawmill that I drive by on a regular basis, and I swear it's the same logs that are just sitting there. I mean, now granted, when you drive by, it's like, but there's a couple like really kind of unusual looking like crotch type things that stand out, and I look at that and go, that's the same log that's been there for like 5 years. But if you go to any sawmill, I mean, certainly some of them have higher production, so they're turning over those logs a lot more. But there's a mom and pop one near me that I don't think they've touched the logs in the back of their log yard for like 10 years. The bark's on them, and I think that's what they're thinking is, well, hey, that protects them when they're trees, so why not while they're logs? And
if they're stacked, the outside ones take the brunt of it, and the ones in the middle are kind of protected.
Maybe that's their plan.
So you got that a little bit going for you, but yeah, you get a log sitting around for long enough, you start getting like actual cracks in them. And if you have a log that's cracked, it's trying to saw a board out of that, perpendicular to that crack. That crack's going to go right through your board. So you're going to end up with lower yield. But if you're only sawing that for like pallet stock or something, then who cares?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But so that could be what they're using it for. It could be just crap they're using for pallet stock. But for furniture making, not so much. But if you're like construction, building, where they're going to be breaking that down to smaller pieces anyway, might not be that big of an issue.
Yeah, that's true. The yield, the what they're looking for with 2x4s is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Cool. This question comes from Daniel. He says, "Greetings, gentlemen and Mark." This question is meant for Shannon since he doesn't seem to get enough love these days.
Why is he saying that?
I don't know.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I'm not sure what that means. How many of you guys have had somebody call in and imitate gorilla sounds? None.
That's true. Yeah, we haven't been referred to as primates, so I guess we got that going for us.
Sure. Anyway, Daniel says, I was hoping the Shannon could provide his thoughts on the viability and use of a bench crochet. I'm planning on building a 7-inch Nichols and bench, and yeah, I want to use it. So, yeah, I just built a workbench, as some of you may know, and I had planned on putting the crochet on the bench, and frankly, just kind of ran out of time, and it was just one of those things where it was just an additional additional thing to do. I have used a crochet on a couple of benches before. If you don't know, crochet is a stop. It's on the face of the bench and it comes out at kind of an angle. So not only is it holding the board while you're planing, but it also is kind of squeezing it up against the front of the bench. What I use on my bench up in Maine right now is just a simple peg. And then I have a row of holes underneath it that I can use a holdfast in. So it's doing the same thing, but it's requiring 2 points. But I've actually found that it holds it a little bit more securely that way, because not only is the holdfast squeeze in against the front apron, but because of the frequency of the holes down the leg, I can actually set the holdfast as a peg for the board to rest upon. So it's pressing up against the one peg and then resting on the holdfast. So the 2 points of contact, and then the holdfast itself is pressing it against the front of the bench. And I find that that is so much more stable than just a crochet. And a lot of people will say they use a crochet and a holdfast. That begs the question of, well, why do you need a crochet in the first place? So there's certainly some merit to the fact that it's pressing it up against the bench like that. But I also found while I was working with a bench with a crochet, what I did more than anything with that crochet was bump into the damn thing. I kept smacking into it. Every time I turned around, I was whacking my hip against it. Or if I was reaching over the bench, it was like catching, like I had cargo shorts on. I would catch like the side of the pocket and be like, oh, geez. It was just always reaching out and grabbing stuff. I bumped my elbow on the thing. Like, yeah. Oh yeah. Fresh. It got fresh many times. But the worst thing was I kept bumping my elbow on it. And I kept thinking maybe, it should be mounted lower, but then it didn't really seem like it would fit the purpose. So there are alternatives. I can't remember what the name used for it was, but you can actually create like a sliding crochet that actually, think of like the plane stops that you hammer up and down that big, like 4x4 block. Think of that turned on its side and kind of on an angle, and you can tap it in and out and you're creating a moving crochet. That's another option. But honestly, the peg and the holdfast works just fine. And it's a single hole and a single dowel and, some holdfast. As far as making one, you've got to laminate some stock together, or you've got to get one that's thicker stock, like 12-quarter stock, because you really want to orient that so that the grain is running along the long axis of that angled piece. Otherwise, you get short grain situations and you're liable to snap it off. So if you can't get 12 or 16-quarter stock, you're just going to want to laminate together some pieces, lay it out on an angle, cut an angle on the end, and screw it to the bench. You don't want it to be permanently installed, because this is something that is liable to either break, or in my case, you go, this damn thing's in the way. You want to get rid of it. So yeah, I have mixed feelings on this. It is effective, but at the same time, I just don't think I don't want one on my own bench. So
Shannon don't need no stinking crotchet.
Yeah, I don't need no crotchet.
Crotchety old man.
Yeah,
I'd rather have tubs.
That's right.
All right.
Okay.
My advice. It's well before your time, man.
Oh, definitely. Continue.
Yeah. All right.
Go watch The Wedding Singer. You can.
That's a good movie. One of the few good Adam Sandler movies. Did I say that? Yes. Okay, so iTunes reviews. If you want to help us out, you can look us up in the iTunes store, click on ratings and reviews, and give us a sweet 5-star rating. Quite a few people did. I'm going to read one that didn't. What do you think about that? Here's a 3-star review. He says, or she, who knows, it would be much better without the schoolgirl giggling and childish poo-poo talk. So, just for this person, every time I say poo-poo, Matt, could you giggle for me? Just do it
definitely.
like an exercise.
I'm pretty sure I already do. It's like an automatic thing.
I mean, we're going to do it right now. Like, poo-poo. 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 It's like, this is what I do with my kids, actually. I put one of them down on the couch and I'm like, poo-poo. And they're like, you're so funny, Dad. All right. So there you go. So if you didn't like that, I hope you like it less now.
Probably didn't listen to it anyway.
Okay. Exactly. You tuned out. It's only a 3-star show. Why you're still listening. Okay, so if you want to help us out on Patreon, of course, you can do that. Patreon.com/WoodTalk, and you can head to the TWW store and pick up a Wood Talk t-shirt. And we will soon, very soon. We're still trying to get all the details worked out. It's a thing. We're trying to get those USB sticks that have like as much of the Wood Talk archive as we can get on there, which should be pretty cool. We'll have those available soon. We also have a email extra coming up here for $4 and higher patrons. So if you are one of those people, you'll get that content. We're going to be talking about micro bevels. That'll be the topic for our email extra. And I think that's about it. So, Shannon, you want to give them all the info and we'll get out of here.
Okay. If you got stuff you want to tell us, comments, questions, topic suggestions, we will happily ignore them if you send them to woodtalkonline@gmail.com. That's where the best place to send your voice memo apps and your questions and stuff. You can also fill out a comment on the webpage. Go to the webpage, woodtalkshow.com. Scroll to the bottom and tell us all the things that you love about us. We like that. We're on Instagram now for lots of giggling and poo-poo jokes and photoshoppings. So if you do catch Matt with his film crew, you can send it to us, and Matt will guaranteed end up on the Instagram for Wood Talk, which I'm in the same situation Mark's has, where now I have to expand my screen because I can't see that, because I can't remember what our own Instagram is. It's just at Wood Talk Show.
Wood Talk Show.
Really should have known that already. And that's it, really. We have our own sites. You know what they are. If you don't, then who needs you?
What?
Wow.
What if the person's new? That is very disrespectful, Shannon.
Yeah, that's me. Gorillas are disrespectful.
That's right. Gorillas just don't.
Woodwhisperer.com, macromono.com, renaissancewoodworker.com. There you go.
Thank you.
Jeez.
Jeez.
All right.
Woof.
Well, thank you for listening, everybody, and welcome back to the show. And we will we'll catch you later. All right. I'm gonna stop that.
Stop that.
407. Why did I not have that correct in the notes? I mean, I had the templates, the show templates labeled with the right show, and I even called the weekend show. Nope. You know what? That's an automatic field. So if you input 407 at the top, it automatically bumps the weekend show to 408. Do you see that? You're welcome.
Wow.
You're welcome, man.
Wow. That's so fancy.
God,
Right?
How much time you spent on this?
I texted you guys with updates all afternoon when I was working on it.
Jeez.
Like, oh,
dude.
guess what I did? And look, there's a date picker now. Ugh. All right.
God, I thought I had a purpose. Apparently I don't anymore.
Well, now you're just going to get paid less.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, Nicole just texted me. So, question about these chairs when you get a chance. What chairs?
The chairs in your house?
And what
The
could...
new ones?
Oh, I think I'm in trouble.
Are they broken?
Yeah, did she... Yeah,
So,
question.
you know
So,
those chairs you just
how
made?
easy is it to fix a leg
Remember
that broke
those
off?
chairs you made? The past tense of this frightens me.
Yeah. Okay. Yikes. All right, so I think you want to do the weekend show, and then we'll come back, circle back to the email extra.
Yeah.
Since we're doing a live thing.
Do it.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Wistia bandwidth notice. What?
Yeah, I get one of those every month.
Jeez. Yeah, but I got upgraded.
My
Jeez.
fee plus the upgrade, like the additional bandwidth, I think is still way less than I was paying for my previous yearly arrangement. But I always feel like there's got to be something like smarter that I could be doing that would cost less.
Yeah.
It's like a data plan at like Verizon.
DVDs.
Actually, I think DVDs are coming back. You bring up a good point.
God. Please, no.
Let's hope.
I think you're full of it.
It's time, guys. It's time to bring.
Even if you're right, I choose not to listen to that.
la 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 la. All right.
They're not even HD.
I think Betamax has a better chance of DVD
They might.
coming back than DVD.
It's retro, man. It's like
that's what I mean. It'll be
like
hipster and
vinyl
stuff.
records. It's all coming back.
Exactly where I was going with that.
Okay, working with other people in your shop. All right, so this is
Pain in the butt, that is.
I have 9/8. Is that the right date? Yeah, that should be right for the weekend show. All right, you guys ready? I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Let's
Hit
do
me.
it.
Welcome to the Wood Talk Weekend Show.
Hang on, track's not
Those
loaded.
pants. Wood Talk Weekend Show. Time to unbutton those pants, crack open a fresh grape soda, and let the soothing sounds of Mark, Shannon, and Matt caress your ear holes.
All right, welcome to the weekend show. It's number 408 for September 8th, 2017.
It's
so
the
today,
weekend.
it is the weekend. Actually, I forgot to mention it's a weekend show. Okay.
Yay.
So
Weekend show of the month. No.
weekend show of the month. We really should just do a router bit of the month. just to be able to bring back like clips of Vanderlist saying that.
Just to keep it alive, just so that people will always know what we're talking about.
And no one at this point does. Maybe 3 people. And only 2 on this show know what we're talking about. Did you listen to that, Matt, back in the day?
Of course.
Okay, good.
What else was there to listen to?
You did listen to it more than you did.
You did your homework. Yeah, I never listened to it. I just listened to the intro and then stopped listening.
I watched Matt's stuff between Wood Whisperer episodes. Nothing better on.
There's nothing else on the internet. What am I doing here? Okay. So we're going to talk about something sort of broadly about having other people in your shop and partnering with other people, working with other people in the shop, what that's like, but also, very specifically about our experience while Matt was out here in my shop a couple weeks ago. And we built some projects together and how fun it was, maybe how not fun it was. Maybe it was annoying. Maybe Matt farts a lot while he woodworks and I have to deal with that. It makes me quite uncomfortable.
You probably liked it. What are you talking about?
Rejection to me,
so,
I think.
I don't want to say anything because I don't want to embarrass the guy, but it smells like poop in here. So,
Bill, wow, I'm talented.
It hasn't. That's why I had to install a window over here to get the cross ventilation to get the stuff out. Okay, so sort of looking at your time as a woodworker, how much experience have you guys had with other people in the shop, like close quarters working with anyone? Because I'm imagining the 3 of us don't really have a whole lot of that.
Most of it comes from my volunteer time at the Stepping Stone when I had like between 3 and 4 other people in the shop at one time.
Okay.
But that was, fortunately, that was mostly like museum type stuff, answering questions from customers and anything, or customers, patrons, whatever, visitors. That's what they're called.
Annoying people.
But there were times when we had actual projects that had to be built for the museum, and that was a fiasco. I mean, it was.
Was it?
And a lot of it was. See, I think like in your case, you guys kind of got along all right. And you seem like you still get along. You're still speaking to one another, so that's a good thing. And I got along just fine with the people that I volunteered with, but we were from very different walks of life, very different styles. So it was an oil and water type thing, trying to get something done. Like one person would literally be over your shoulder saying, I think I would probably do it this way, like in mid mortise chop. Like, seriously? Like, now you're telling me to try this a different way? There was a lot of kind of mismatched parts. Like one person would be working on one thing, another would be working on another, and like, hey, they don't fit together, which was kind of an issue. Or the design agendas that were going on. I think we should do it this way. One person being, no, that's wrong. We should do it this way. And yeah, so that was the negative side of things. And then I've had it go, and I think a lot of that was because there was more than 2 people. Because I've also done it with just one other person, and it worked just fine. It was all good. So,
what do you expect when you get a room full of silverback gorillas?
Yeah,
all working on the same project at once,
and one female.
Right? Yes, it doesn't go well. There's going to be some hurt feelings. So, Matt, how about you? You have a lot of experience with partnering with someone or multiple people in a shop?
Not really. No. I'd say that trip to your place was like the first real one. Like everything before that, like when Lindsay comes up, we do something together, some video project thing. That's pretty much it. But like, she's working on the project. I'm just making the camera work and making sure she doesn't kill herself. So it's not like a whole lot of like, I'm not really doing anything like woodworking related.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm actually working.
I think my experience was kind of limited to when I spent time at David Mark's shop. And that's me sort of being the guy who's like, please teach me something and I will sweep the floor. But meanwhile, I have to work, alongside with the guy and meet his expectations. So that was interesting. And then, maybe having students in my shop, that's happened before. That's a very different thing. It's along the lines of what you're talking about, Matt, when you have your wife there, you're not just you're not working with them on the project. You're sort of overseeing and trying to capture it. And also, like you said, make sure she doesn't hurt herself. It's the same thing with a student. You're trying to teach and you might have a little bit of side-by-side work, but you're just guiding them through the process. It's very different than what you and I did. And our experience was, it was definitely a weird thing because our goal primarily was to make a bunch of picture frames. So even then it was like day one, picked them up at the airport. We come back, we're eating lunch and it's like, so what are we doing? Like, what are we building? Like, we hadn't even, because it's just a really busy time for everybody. We didn't have any designs yet. So of course we pull up Google and start looking for ideas and get inspiration for what we want to do with this thing. And then next thing you know, we've got like 5 frame ideas, and now we have to actually go into the shop and just execute these things. And I would say for us, maybe you disagree, Matt, but I thought actually we worked really well together, considering this was a space Matt had never worked in before. But I think we also, I know Matt's watched a lot of my videos, so he probably already coming into this knows how Mark would do something, which really helps in terms of like anticipating the person's next move and where they're going to go, what tool they're likely to use so you're not in their way, that sort of thing. So, and that same thing happened with me when I worked with David. I was able to really fit into his shop pretty well because I was essentially raised, if you will, on woodworks. So I kind of had an idea of what David would do, where he would go, what his next step might be, and it made it so much easier to work with the person. So thankfully,
were you shocked that you couldn't complete a project in 30 minutes?
Yeah, well, that was exactly. But it was definitely a fun experience. But I think what made it so fun was the fact that we didn't have that many headbutting situations, where someone thinks something should, like what you were describing, Shannon. There was none of that. Yeah. I think a lot of that comes from having similar backgrounds and understanding each other pretty well before we even stepped foot into the shop together.
Right.
I really liked it. I think it was a lot of fun, and it was a totally different experience than anything I was ever used to. Because like, even if it was like, because we're making videos, and the fact that it was, what made it the most interesting, the most enjoyable for me was the fact that we both understand that process. Where it's not like, we're not just making a project, we're like filming this thing and getting that all done. So like having someone else there, like a couple times you're like, hey Matt, do you actually want this camera to be recording right now? Yeah, that'd be nice. Or like,
yeah, or like the time I'm like doing a glue up and Matt set the camera up for me, and then I look up and slowly but surely the camera's just panning down on its own because he didn't lock it down. I was like, hey Matt, you want to fix this camera for me? And they were actually, even with that, because we were goofing off a lot, there were some stupid mistakes. Like I've got a whole scene that I've got to chop up the audio on now to boost Matt's levels because I set it up with 2 mics and Matt never put his microphone on. And I didn't notice.
Just never wearing it.
Yeah, so I've got this whole scene shot where I'm the only one wearing a microphone. But ultimately,
it's a power play right there, man.
Jeez. Yeah. Well, I didn't even put batteries in his microphone. Little did you know.
First time I died, we tried to do my shop update, and the batteries on the receiver on the camera died, so I didn't even have any audio from my shop update. We recorded that twice, and that was the day I got there, and it was like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. We've been working all day. I traveled that morning. I didn't sleep that night, and then here we are doing a little shop update. Yep. Oh yeah, let's do it again.
An interesting aspect of this, and I guess if you have a shop partner, maybe some people do, like together they have maybe 1 or 2 other people and they share a shop space. It's one thing to share a shop space, but it's another thing to actually be working on things together. And in some cases, I imagine 2 people working on a project could actually be much less efficient than just a single person. In our case, I think it really worked out well just because we did work so well together. I feel like we were insanely productive. Like, given the amount of time that we had, the number of things we were going to build, we just got a lot of stuff done. And, even to the point where after you left, and granted, I'm at a different phase with the project, like the garden gate, for instance. It took me like a day and a half to make and do most of the woodworking for that garden gate. But now I'm like 3 weeks later and I still haven't assembled it. So, again, it's because I'm working on the finish right now, but there is something about having that other person in the shop, especially when you're working together on a project, that kind of keeps you going and keeps the pace. Even if you don't even notice it's happening, the pace seems to be faster and the productivity seems to be more substantial in those situations.
Yeah, it's very weird. I did not think we would get that far. Like I built that bar stool in 2 days.
Yeah.
And there's no way I would have done that in 2 days at my shop.
Right. Yeah.
For some reason, it would just taking me longer.
And we did, picture frames are not that big of a deal, but we did some pretty substantial picture frames that are more than just like 4 boards and 45-degree miters. We did a total of 5 frames. And then we each built a project for our own respective sites. He did the bar stool, and I did the garden gate. He also did his update. We did some Friday. I think we did a Friday live and a guild live. I mean, we were working our butts off.
We went to a meetup.
We did a meetup. Yeah, there was a Denver meetup at the time too. So we got so much done in 5 days that it's just unbelievable. But I know that's a rare situation because I mean, honestly, if you're working with other people, you're not always going to see eye to eye on certain aspects. And frankly, if we worked together longer, yeah, there might be stuff we would butt heads on, but in this particular situation, it was pretty good. It was a lot of fun. Okay. Do we have anything else we want to say about this?
I do. I have one more thing I want to say about this. As someone who coming into a shop space you're not used to, there's like a lot of things that like, it's a very foreign space. So like the workflow is a little different. You gotta get used to that. You gotta get used to the different tools. And there's a lot of things that you have set up in your shop, or the tools you have that I just have never used or I've never had that experience with. So I had a lot of firsts while I was in your shop.
Okay.
Like first time using a combination bladed table saw.
Okay.
That was a first. That was weird. And like the way that you work is a lot, like as far as safety goes. Like I'm personally not that concerned with dust, but I know you are. But I know something I've been trying to do for a long time is to be concern myself more with it and be a little more proactive about wearing a respirator and whatnot. So I brought mine with me and I wore it, and it was fine and everything. But because you were there wearing yours, I wore mine, and it definitely helped me to kind of start building that habit of wearing one. So even though I'm back now, I'm still wearing it in the shop.
Right.
And the dust thing has been really hard for me to get that over that hump of like just doing it, because it doesn't bother me. Like it doesn't give me sinus issues. I don't have like crust built up my nose all the time or whatever. It's not an issue. I know. It's just not an issue for me. It's like hearing protection, that's pretty easy because it's more comfortable. Eye protection is like there's crap flying in your eyes all the time. Yeah. That's it's
obvious.
Kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah.
Right. Dust, it's like it's a hindrance for me because I got to take this thing off. I can't. The one thing I hate about wearing a dust mask that you don't even notice it. You probably don't notice it anymore. I can't just blow dust off of crap whenever I want now.
You have to break that habit.
I try that all the time.
Oh yeah, you go and you go, oh crap.
Come on, man.
You don't have that portable compressed air thing anymore.
Yep.
And, I would really miss that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where my I live in fear of invisible things. Like I fear everything that could potentially kill me, and I think about it way too much. So my personal fear of what dust can do to my lungs is enough to say, yeah, I'm going to wear that all the time. And you know what? I have a little dust meter in here, and I'm going to let my air cleaner run, and I'm not taking this thing off until I see that number get down to something a little bit more reasonable. And I realize and I see it all the time. I look at, whether it's YouTubers or Instagram accounts, and I see people just, not everybody is as worried about it as I am. And maybe I'm a little bit too far on the precaution side of things, but that's, everybody's got to find their own comfort level. But I say, if I encourage you to wear it more, then that's good. Because you should.
Well, I think from that perspective, this is a very good thing. And I think I would encourage others to find an opportunity to work with someone else in your shop, or go to their shop and work with them, and vice versa. In fact, that guild that I spoke at, whenever that was, June, they actually do a shop swap type thing. You can sign up to spend a day in somebody else's shop. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about it at the meeting, and it was very, very positive. Everybody was saying kind of what Matt is saying. Like, I never had that experience. I never thought about doing it this way. Now I've changed the way I'm doing things. So I think because this is such a kind of insular type pursuit, that we can get so caught up in our own ways of doing things. And as much as the internet has allowed us to find our tribe and find all the new different ways, there's still something different about having that person in your shop, and keeping on track.
Yeah,
so,
there's no doubt about it. And anytime I've taken classes at a different school, that's one of the things that I love about that experience, because I just look around. And it's basically another version of like Matt saying, I come here and I see the workflow, I see how Mark operates in this space, and whether he takes something home from it, regardless, it's still interesting to see. So same thing with classes. You go to this space and you look, okay, now this is a space that has to manage a lot of people. So they're going to do things a little bit differently, but you definitely get insights into things that you could then bring back to your own shop and improve your space, or technique-wise as well. You learn a lot of new techniques. So yeah, that's a really good point. That is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, I'm considering a combination blade for my table saw now.
See, you want to save some time?
Useless.
Stop switching blades, man.
Buy a sliding compound miter saw instead, Matt.
Well, yes, we know now that is the cure-all for just.
I need to make a miter saw station, a big wall unit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your vendetta against combo blades? Why haven't you used them?
The cut quality is not that good.
What?
Yeah.
What
So
kind
a dedicated rip?
I have
crosscut blade.
Yeah, and as I thought about it, like how the cuts need to be perfect. It's kind of what I've realized or come down to.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know.
Well, you cut
That's
miters.
kind of where I've been.
You cut miters on my saw, which is cross-cut-ish, right?
Yeah.
And that was with a combo blade. Did you have a problem with that cut quality? Be honest.
I guess not.
Be honest.
Now, the thing you notice the most is with the rip cuts. The
Yeah.
cross cuts, there's a little bit of chipping on the surface, but if you're going to be sanding that surface after there's assembly or something, that's probably going to be removed anyway.
Yeah, it's minimal.
Rip cuts, you'll see that they did have some saw marks, which I'm not used to. I'm used to like perfect edge,
Yeah.
like off the jointer look. But for the same fact, I joint the boards anyway before I glue them together if I'm doing it like a
That's what I'm
panel or
saying.
something.
That's what I'm saying. What are you doing with these things that you need them to be perfect?
I don't know, Mark. Okay,
Let's save yourself some
I have a higher
time.
level of perfection than you do.
Yes,
just admit it.
Yeah, as we know from our recent Facebook experiences, Matt's penchant for quality exceeds
kill me
mine.
now.
I know a lot of people have no idea what we're talking about, but there was some funny Facebook business going on with Matt's choppy mortises.
Trying to enjoy my weekend.
Oh, man.
It was great. But terrible. Okay.
Great, but terrible.
Yeah.
What a ragged kind of beaver did this mortise.
Exactly. Oh, boy. Good stuff. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we will catch you next time.
Goodbye.
I guess I just
that's
like
the reason to
quality.
improve your hand skills, because when your mortiser breaks down and you have to post it on Facebook, you want to make sure you can at least make it look decent. Yeah.
Jeez.
Hilarious.
The smartest advice I ever learned when it comes to woodworking creation, like content creation, was from Roy Underhill. Just keep moving it around so the camera can focus on it. Just keep moving that project around.
That's a good point. I like that idea. Just make sure you got a high frame rate. It'll be fine. Okay, I'm going to kill the live stream. Thanks for listening to us live and watching. Not that there's much to see. But we'll see you guys later.
Good shot.
That's a good question.